Assalamualaikum everyone. I hope that you all are doing well. Right, for today's lecture, we are going to proceed with another subtopic under law of thought, which is under trespass to persons. Okay, but today we will cover on two parts only, assault and battery. Okay, first of all, the learning outcomes for today's lecture is first, at the end of the lesson, students is able to identify the elements of assault and battery. And the second learning outcome is student is able to apply the elements of assault and battery into the given into the situation given. Right? So at the end of the lectures today, you must make sure that you are able to answer the problem-based questions using formula of ILEC. Okay. Alright. Basically, the requirements of thought in trespass to person is also similar with negligence. Okay, and a defamation, because you have to identify the elements, and then in order to take actions, the claimant must prove all the elements. Okay, so same goes to a thought of assault and battery. Okay, before that, let me define what is a trespass to person. Okay, trespass to person involve a wrongful invasion of a person's right to freedoms from interference with his body or his right to personal liberty. So when there is the interference or any application of force to his body, to the property of that person, this is constituted as trespass to person. And take note, this is an actionable per se, means that the claimant only needs to show that the trespass occurred, and it is not necessary to show that the defendant caused any damage or injury. Okay, because under negligence, you have to prove the damage. Okay, but under trespass to person, it is an actionable per se. You just prove the trespass occurred. For example, if there is an assault, so you have to prove that the elements of assault were established in that situation. Alright, basically, trespass to persons can be divided into three types: assault, battery, and forced imprisonment. Inshallah, for forced imprisonment, we cover on next week, okay, after your special break. Okay, and then there are several defenses that are available to trespass to person. Okay, defenses is the rights, given to the defendant, to defend himself. For example, the defense of self-defense, consent and legal authority. Okay, so again, trespass to person comprised of assault, battery, and forced imprisonment. Right. So now we start with assault. Okay, basically, claimant can choose, either to take actions under the criminal law or under law of tort. If he wants to take action under criminal law, he must refer to Penal Code section 351. Okay, this is include the preparations to use criminal force. Why we state it as a preparation in the Penal Code? Because the force is not inflicted yet. Just a preparation. So this is constituted as an assault. Okay, the purpose of assault is to punish. To punish the offender. This is under criminal law, because if a person is guilty of assault, he will be punished. For example, we give a sentencing to the person. But if you take action against the the wrongdoer, under law of tort, you are able to compensate. Okay, meaning that court will order the wrongdoer or the defendant to give you compensation. Okay, so compensation must be given to the injured party. This is under law of tort. Okay, because aim of a tort is to provide compensation. Okay, basically, assault means the act of putting another person in reasonable fear or apprehensions of an immediate battery by means of an act amounting to an attempt or threat to commit a battery. This is only a threat. Okay, and it is an intentional and direct act of the defendant which causes the plaintiff reasonable apprehensions of immediate infliction of force onto his person. Okay, you need to prove that the there was the the act is intentional. Okay, the wrongdoer has an intention to commit an assault. Okay, sorry ada gangguan sikit. Okay, example of assault. Okay, as you can see in your manual, when there is an argument between A and B, which A threatens to punch B in the face, and this threat causes B to fear that he will be harmed by A. And therefore, the claimant in this case will have to prove that all the elements of assault are established. Only then A can be charged with committing an assault. Okay, so in order to succeed in your claim as a claimant, okay, you must prove all the elements of assault. Okay, alright. So what are the elements of assault? Okay, basically there are four. First is an intention of the defendant to do harm onto the plaintiff. Okay, intention also means a mental state of the defendant. Okay, second is effects on the plaintiff mind which cause the reasonable fear or reasonable fear of apprehensions. Okay, and then there was a capability of the defendant to carry out the threat, and then a bodily movement of the defendant. Okay, the first elements of assault that the claimant must prove is mental state of the defendant. Okay, defendant must have intended to commit the act. Okay, so defendant must have intention to do assault. So this is very important to be established. Okay, however, this element can be negative by his own words or by conduct. Okay, for example, you may refer to this case to prevail against a savage 1669. So what happened in this case? The defendant told the plaintiff, okay, and he had laid his hand upon his word and said, if it were not a size time, I will not take such language from you. So this statement's negative, the elements of intention on the defendants, but to injure plaintiff. Assault therefore was not established. Okay, because in this case, it is just the assigned time. Okay, when the judges were in the time for court sessions, savage later sued for assault. So cannot lah. Alright. Okay, so this will negative the elements of intention. Okay, another illustration that I can highlight to you is, for example, let's say Ali. Okay, Ali said to Sarah that I'm going to kill you, Sarah, on next year. What do you think of this statement? Whether this is amounting to an assault? Okay, so please figure out the answer. Another illustrations. Okay, let's say Ali wave at Abu, and then Ali just saying that I am going to shoot you, Abu. Okay, however, there is no gun is visible or appearance. Do you think that this is this is amounting to an assault? Okay, so we have to refer to the situation, because if the words without an ad cannot constitute an assault. If the words is accompanied by an ad, yes, it may indicates that the defendant has the ability to carry out the threat. So assault has occurred. Okay. Next, the second element of assault is effects on plaintiff mind. Okay, a plaintiff must feel a reasonable apprehensions that a force will be inflicted upon him. Okay, so here means the reasonable fear. Okay, reasonable fear of apprehensions of danger. Okay, since there is the defender is threatening him, so dia rasa takut. Okay, so in order to fulfill these elements, there is an objective test applied. Okay, would a reasonable man faced with the same situation that the plaintiff was in feel apprehensive that a force would be inflicted upon him? So we place the reasonable man in the plaintiff situations. If the answer is yes, then these elements is fulfilled. Okay, force means that some form of violence, contact that would put a reasonable man to be in reasonable fear or attack. You may refer to the case of R against St. George, 1840. Pointing an unloaded gun at a person constituted an assault. Why? Okay, why? Okay, because plaintiff did not know that the gun was unloaded. Let's say the plaintiff know that the gun was unloaded. Do you think that he will feel reasonable apprehensions? Dia akan rasa takut? No, right? Okay, so if plaintiff did not know that the gun was unloaded, then by pointing an unloaded gun to him constitute as assault. Okay, the third element of assault is capability to carry out the threat. Okay, this requirement is measured through the eyes of a reasonable plaintiff. That's why we use an objective test. Will a reasonable man in the plaintiff's positions feel reasonable fear that there is threat of immediate force upon himself? And will a reasonable man believe that the defender will realize his threat? If the answer is yes, then the third element is fulfilled. So it must be apprehended is actual physical contact. Okay. So actual physical contact. For example, in the case of Stephen against Myers. Okay, so the third element, this case proved the third elements that there was a capability on the defendant to carry out his threat because defendant threatened to hit the plaintiff and he advanced with clenched fists upon the plaintiff. So there is capability on the defendant to carry out his threat if he was not stopped by the third party. Okay, however, you may distinguish from this case in the case of Thomas against National Union of Mine Workers, South Wales area in 1985. In this case, the picketing miners, okay, they were threatened some other miners who did not join in the picketing. However, they were controlled and observed by the police. So do you think that there was a capability of the picketing miners to proceed with their act? No, right? Okay, because they were controlled and observed by the police. So they have no capability to commit any physical contact. And the last element is a bodily movement. Okay, you must prove that there is some bodily movement. Okay, even assault involve no contact, some form of bodily movement is still necessary. Bodily movement means a positive act in the circumstances indicating that the defendant will carry out his threat. Okay, so bodily movement per se is not adequate and it must be accompanied with the probable inflictions of unwanted force onto the plaintiff. So if you are able to fulfill the third elements of assault, then four elements also may be fulfilled. You may refer to the case of Reed against Coker in your manual. Okay, in this case, the act of the defendant is when he clustered around the plaintiff and then tucking off their sleeve and threatened to break his neck if he did not leave. And the plaintiff left and brought an action against the defendant. So in this case, yes, the defendant was guilty of an assault because there was a threat of violence accompanied with an intentions, and there was also present an ability to carry the threat into executions. So if there is a capability to carry out the threat, there is also fulfill the four elements of assault: bodily movement. Alright, so I think that's all for assault. Okay, next video we proceed with a thought of battery. Thank you everyone.